The darkness consumed the deserted streets, and the sound of footsteps echoed ominously through the narrow, filthy alleys of a city that never sleeps. Renata clutched a worn photo of Andre, her husband, the only thing she had left of him since his disappearance. The image was faded, much like the hope she desperately tried to keep alive. Her eyes, once full of life, now reflected the weight of the unknown. Andre's last words echoed in her mind, "If something goes wrong, trust no one." Renata knew she couldn't wait any longer. The police had already closed the investigation, citing a lack of concrete evidence, but she knew Andre better than anyone. He would never leave her without a trace. The problem was, the more she dug, the darker and more dangerous the revelations became. The man she loved was involved in something far bigger than mere police operations. Determined to uncover the truth, Renata plunged headlong into the criminal underworld. With every contact she made, she realized she was getting closer to understanding what really happened on that fateful night. Informants revealed fragments of information, pieces of a puzzle that seemed increasingly impossible to assemble. But one thing was clear: Andre wasn't the only target. She, too, was being watched. The nights grew long, filled with clandestine meetings and chases. Renata no longer knew whom to trust. The line between friend and foe became ever more blurred. The clues led her to the highest echelons, powerful men who wouldn't hesitate to destroy anyone who threatened their secrets. But Renata was willing to go all the way. She wanted answers, even if it meant unearthing truths that could destroy her. One of those nights, she came across a name that made her shiver: Elias Costa. An influential businessman with government connections, who, as it seemed, was neck-deep in the web of corruption she had uncovered. Could he be the key to finding Andre? Or just another piece in a deadly game? The heavy air of the room where Renata sat began to suffocate her, but she couldn't stop now. Every new discovery pushed her further into an abyss of uncertainty and danger. The truth was getting closer, but at the same time, she felt she was about to lose everything. Then, on a rainy night, Renata found what she was looking for. A cryptic message left by Andre, hidden in a place only she would think to look. The content of the message was clear: if you're reading this, then you already know you can't trust anyone. Not even me. From that moment on, doubt began to gnaw at Renata. Could the man she loved somehow be involved in the network she was trying to dismantle? Or was he trying to protect her from something even bigger, something she couldn't even imagine? Renata realized she was caught up in something far beyond a simple disappearance. She wasn't just looking for her husband, she was fighting for her own survival. And now, more than ever, she had to decide: how far was she willing to go to uncover the truth? With every step she took, the danger increased. The shadows around her seemed to draw closer, watching her every move. What Renata didn't know was that sometimes the truth is hidden beneath layers of lies so intricately woven that, once unraveled, what lies beneath might be even more terrifying than the unknown itself. The rain continued to beat against the windows as Renata recalled Andre's message. The words "not even me" echoed in her mind like a riddle she couldn't decipher. What did he mean by that? Was Andre hinting at betrayal, or was he trying to protect her from something he couldn't control? She knew she needed more answers, but the clues were becoming more elusive and the enemies more dangerous. Determined to press on, Renata reached out to an old colleague of Andre's, a retired investigator named Raul. He had a reputation for being discreet, someone who knew the ins and outs of the police force and the secrets of the powerful. They arranged to meet in a rundown bar on the outskirts of town, a place where prying eyes wouldn't dare to watch. When she arrived, Renata sensed the tension in the air. Raul was seated in a dark corner, his back against the wall, watching the entrance with eyes that seemed to see beyond appearances. As Renata approached, he gestured for her to sit. "You shouldn't be here, Renata," Raul said bluntly, lighting a cigarette. "This hole you're digging, it has no bottom." "I don't have a choice," Renata replied, her voice firm. "I need to know what happened to Andre. And you know more than you're saying." Raul sighed, as if preparing to carry a burden he had long tried to avoid. "Andre was into something big, bigger than any of us. But what you don't know is that he was about to make a deal with Elias Costa." Renata felt her blood run cold. That name again. Elias Costa, the businessman who seemed to pull the strings of everything and everyone in the city. But why would Andre be negotiating with a man like him? Before she could process this new information, Raul continued. "Elias is more than just a corrupt businessman. He's the tip of the iceberg. Andre was trying to infiltrate Elias's organization to dismantle something much bigger. But things went wrong, and he disappeared before he could get anything concrete." "What was he trying to stop?" Renata asked, now more determined than ever. Raul looked at her for a long time, as if debating whether or not to reveal what he knew. Finally, he leaned forward, lowering his voice to an almost inaudible whisper. "Influence peddling, corruption, money laundering, that's just the surface. What Andre uncovered goes beyond that. Far beyond. Something so big that people in the highest positions are involved. And Elias Costa? He's just a public face. There are others, Renata, much more powerful. People who would do anything to keep their secrets buried." Renata felt the weight of Raul's words. She was playing a game she couldn't win. But at the same time, the need to know what really happened to Andre drove her to keep going. She couldn't give up now. "I need to find Elias," Renata said with renewed determination. "If he knows something about Andre, I'll get the truth out of him." Raul looked at her with a mix of admiration and concern. "Just be careful, Renata. People like Elias don't leave loose ends. If you get too close, he'll swallow you whole. And this time, there won't be any way back." Renata nodded, but deep down, she knew she had already crossed the point of no return. Elias Costa was the key to uncovering what happened to Andre. And even if it meant diving deeper into the abyss, she was willing to take the risk. Her next move would be the most dangerous yet, facing the enemy head-on, even knowing that the enemy might be much closer than she realized. The night dragged on as Renata planned her next step. Every move had to be calculated precisely. Elias Costa was a ruthless adversary, and she knew that confronting him meant stepping into enemy territory, where a single mistake could be fatal. With Raul's help, Renata arranged a meeting with one of Elias's enforcers, a man known as Cobra. The nickname suited his reputation: treacherous, silent, lethal. The meeting would take place in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city, a place where the night's noises mingled with the darkest secrets. Renata arrived at the location before the scheduled time. The cold wind cut through her skin as she watched the shadows around her, trying to catch any movement. Anxiety consumed her, but she knew she had to stay strong. There was no room for fear. Time seemed to crawl until she finally heard the sound of heavy footsteps. Cobra appeared at the entrance of the warehouse, his stern features highlighted under the dim light of a hanging bulb. He stopped a few meters from Renata, sizing her up with a cold gaze. "You've got guts, I'll give you that," Cobra said in a raspy voice. "But guts mean nothing in this game, lady. What do you want from Elias?" Renata took a deep breath, gathering all her determination. "I want answers. And I know Elias has the ones I'm looking for. I need to know what happened to my husband, Andre. I know he was involved in something big, something Elias is also a part of." Cobra let out a cold laugh, as if the idea of a desperate wife trying to infiltrate the criminal underworld was something he found amusing. "Andre. Oh, I remember him. Smart guy, but a bit too bold. Do you really think you can step into this world and come out unscathed?" Renata stared at Cobra, holding his gaze firmly. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Elias can help me, and I'll do anything to get the answers I need." Cobra studied her for a moment, assessing her sincerity. He stepped closer, the tension in the air intensifying. "What you don't understand, lady, is that this world isn't a place for amateurs. Elias, he's not the kind of man you just meet and ask questions. If you really want to talk to him, you need to offer something in return. Something valuable. And I'm talking about more than just money." Renata had expected this. She was ready to negotiate, but she knew she needed to be careful. "What does Elias want, then?" she asked, trying to hide the nervousness in her voice. Cobra smiled slyly, as if savoring the situation. "Information, lady. Elias wants to know what you know about certain people he considers valuable. If you can deliver something that interests him, maybe, and I do mean maybe, he'll be willing to talk to you." Renata felt a chill run down her spine. She was about to enter a dangerous game, where information was more valuable than gold. And for Elias, the wrong or incomplete information could be as deadly as a bullet. "Very well," Renata said, hiding the uncertainty growing in her chest. "I have something Elias will want. But I need guarantees that he will listen to me." Cobra watched her for a moment longer, as if weighing her words. Finally, he stepped back, indicating that the meeting was coming to an end. "I'll take your message to Elias. If he's interested, you'll receive instructions. But remember, ma'am, there are no second chances in this game. Make sure you're prepared for the consequences." With those words, Cobra disappeared into the shadows, leaving Renata alone in the warehouse, her mind filled with uncertainties and fears. She knew that now she was committed, involved in a deadly game that would demand everything from her. The following hours dragged on, and Renata prepared for what was to come. When the message finally arrived, she knew there was no turning back. The meeting with Elias was set, and this would be the decisive moment. Renata would have to face not only the man who might know Andre's fate but also her own doubts and fears. As she got ready for the meeting, Andre's face appeared in her mind. The man she loved, who had disappeared without a trace, now seemed more distant than ever. But Renata would not give up. She would face Elias and any other threat that came her way. What she didn't know was that the encounter would reveal secrets that would shake all her certainties, placing her in a position where truth and lies mixed, and where every choice could be her last. Renata dressed with discreet elegance, choosing clothes that would make her blend in but at the same time convey seriousness. Her heart was pounding, but her expression was impenetrable. She was ready to face Elias Costa, the man who could answer all her questions, or bury her along with the secrets he guarded. The meeting was set in a luxurious hotel in the city center. Renata knew that this was not just a place for business, it was a territory controlled by Elias. As she entered the lobby, she felt the eyes of the security guards monitoring her discreetly. Every step was a reminder that she was being watched, judged. One of the men indicated that she should go up to the penthouse. Without hesitation, she entered the elevator, which rose silently, increasing the tension with each floor that passed. The elevator doors opened to reveal a spacious, luxuriously decorated room with panoramic windows offering a stunning view of the city. In the center of the room, Elias Costa was seated in a leather armchair, casually flipping through a newspaper. He seemed relaxed, but Renata knew that behind that calm facade was a dangerous man. "Renata, it's a pleasure to finally meet you," Elias said, standing up to greet her. His voice was soft but carried an authority that didn't need to be enforced. "I must admit, it's not often that I meet someone with such courage." "I didn't come here out of courage, Elias," Renata replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "I came for answers." Elias smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He gestured for her to sit, and Renata complied, trying to ignore the chill running down her spine. "Ah, answers. They're what bring us most of our problems, don't you think?" Elias said, leaning forward. "But I'm curious. What do you think you know? And what are you willing to do for those answers?" Renata remained firm. She knew that any sign of weakness could be used against her. "I know you're involved in Andrei's disappearance, and I know he found out something important, something you didn't want to be revealed. I want to know what happened to him, and I want to know now." Elias's smile widened, as if he were amused by the confrontation. Andrei was an interesting man. Smart, determined, but, like you, a bit too reckless. He got involved in something he couldn't control. He was close to discovering something that would have put him in a very dangerous position. Renata felt a lump form in her throat but remained calm. "Where is he?" she asked, trying not to let her emotions show. Elias watched her for a moment, as if weighing how much he could reveal. "Unfortunately, Andrei didn't get out in time. He got caught in a crossfire, something I couldn't prevent. He knew he was playing a dangerous game, and eventually, he paid the price." The words hit Renata like a blow. Despite having feared the worst, hearing the confirmation was devastating. But before she could react, Elias continued. "But you, Renata, you have a choice. You can keep investigating, taking the same risks Andrei did, or you can accept that some things are beyond your control. I could offer you a way out, a chance to leave all this behind. All you have to do is tell me what you've discovered so far, and I promise that nothing will happen to you." Renata felt the temptation to accept. She was tired, hurt, and the idea of escaping this nightmare was appealing. But deep down, she knew she couldn't give up. "Not now. I'm not here to bargain, Elias. I'm going to find out what happened, and I'm going to make sure you and everyone else involved pay for what you've done." Elias's face hardened. He slowly stood up and walked to the window. "You know, Renata, I admire your determination. But I also know when someone has gone too far. I'm sorry it has to be this way." Before Renata could react, she sensed a presence behind her. Two men grabbed her firmly as she struggled in vain. Elias turned to her, his gaze now cold and unforgiving. "I really hoped you would make a different decision, Renata. But, like Andrei, you've gone too far." With a gesture, Elias ordered them to take her away. Renata felt panic rise, but she kept her head held high. She knew this could be the end for her, but she wouldn't regret anything. Fighting for the truth was what kept her alive, even if it led her to death. As she was dragged out of the room, Renata looked at Elias one last time. There were many things she still didn't know, many secrets that would remain buried. But in her heart, she knew she would never have given up on Andrei. And that, perhaps, was her greatest victory. That night, as the sound of the city faded into the distance, Renata was taken to an unknown destination. The silence that enveloped her was the last thing she heard before the shadows finally swallowed her whole.